You can blame Fisher all you want, but Dallas Braden is not your emotional pinata. And today, we're calling out the nonsense. Today on Locked On A's.
You are Locked On A's, your daily podcast on the Athletics, part of the Locked On Podcast Network. Your team every day.
Welcome to Locked On A's, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, now the #1 sports podcast network. My name is Booney, one name, all passion, no sugarcoating. I'm a lifelong A's fan who has spent the past season covering this team every single day with post-game breakdowns, prospect deep dives, roster decisions, and all the chaos in between. And in the offseason, yes, we are still covering the A's every single day. And I don't show up with corporate talking points or highlight real cliches. I show up with honesty, edge, and the perspective of someone who refuses to let this team be treated like an afterthought. If you want blind optimism, look elsewhere. If you want truth, fire, and a voice that actually cares, welcome to Locked On A's, part of the Locked On Podcast Network. We are your team, your A's every single day, and we are free and available on all platforms, including YouTube. If you do reside in the state of Nevada, we are on Monday through Friday at 12:30 p.m. on Silver State Sports and Entertainment, Digital Channel 5.2, and Cox Cable Channel 77. Today's episode is brought to you by FanDuel. Right now, new customers can bet just $5, and if your bet wins, you will get $300 in bonus bets to use across the app. Download the app today. Today's show isn't tiptoeing around anything. We are walking straight into the fire when a former fan base, the former Oakland A's fan base, starts mistaking cruelty for passion. It needs to be called out. And that is exactly what I am doing today. In a video posted this week, I believe on Wednesday, recapping the A's experience, a vocal subset of Oakland fans flooded the replies with profanities and insults aimed at Dallas Braden. This isn't the first time Braden has dealt with this. It's an ugly, disgraceful display and symptomatic of a larger problem within the A's fan base. Sam Boy, good morning to you, man. How are you, sir? I hope you are well. Thanks for coming up early with us. The keyboard warriors who turned Braden into target practice, the ones who took Twitter fingers for moral clarity, who spit venom from behind avatars while contributing nothing but noise. We're pulling apart the fake toughness, the performative outrage, and the total lack of perspective that has turned a proud fan culture into a mockery of itself. This is where we confront the hypocrisy head on. We'll talk about the keyboard warriors a bit later. We roll it back to the silence, the people who watched the pile on and said nothing, the voices who could have stepped in, the voices who could have set a tone, shown some leadership, and instead ghosted the moment entirely. The next segment calls out the bystanders, the influencers, the fan groups, the community, the foundation, the pillars who suddenly disappeared when it was time to actually stand for something. If you claim loyalty, this segment asked, where was it when it mattered? First, we arrive at the spark that should have never been a spark at all. The backlash against Dallas Braden himself. The rewriting of his perfect game legacy, the insults, the smear jobs, the petty cruelty aimed at a guy who gave everything to the team and city. We break down how a heartfelt moment with his grandmother somehow became ammunition in a fan base civil war, and why the outrage aimed at Braden says more about the attackers than it will ever say about him. By the time we finish rewinding this story, one thing will be clear. The fan base didn't fall apart overnight. It unraveled because too many people were loud for the wrong reasons and silent for the right ones. Today, we are stitching the truth back together. In the ninth inning of a perfect game, the kind of baseball magic you see once a decade and never forget, Dallas Braden didn't point to the bullpen or the sky or even his catcher. He pointed to the stands, to his grandmother, to the woman who raised him when cancer took his mother far too young. He walked into history arm in arm with Peggy Lindsay, a Stockton kid who climbed to the mountaintop and brought the person who made it possible right there with him. It was raw, human, gut-wrenching. Even Ken Korak's voice cracked describing it. That scene should have been untouchable, a sacred snapshot of what the A's were. Heart, grit, family. Yet, incredibly, some of the very fans who once cheered that memory have now taken to insults. As I mentioned in a video posted this week recapping the A's experience, a vocal subset of Oakland fans flooded the replies with profanities and insults aimed at Braden. And yet, here we are, somehow, a chunk of A's fans. And let me make it clear, guys. Not all A's fans. Not all A's fans. There are a group of A's fans that are incredible. A good portion of them. And in my criticism with regard to this move to the fans, I have not done a good enough job of saying, hey, it's not everybody. It's not everybody. But there is enough to embarrass the room. They decided the perfect game wasn't sentimental enough. They chose to turn the most heartfelt moment of Braden's life into a cheap insult. It's not passion. That's pettiness wearing passion's clothes. Now, before the mob warms up their vocal cords like it's karaoke night at the Coliseum, let me say this plainly. Let me say this plainly. I have been very, very critical of Dallas Braden, his broadcasting, his pacing, his occasional filibuster so long you forget who's at the plate. I have said it all. I've been very critical of just about everybody. I'm a fan. That's what fans do. And we critique work, we critique players, we critique management decisions. What fan doesn't do that? But what I do not have the right to do is question a man's heart, and neither do you. Because here's the truth everyone conveniently forgets while they're teeing off on Twitter like it was home run derby. Dallas Braden never turned his back on this fan base. I'll cover exactly what I mean up next. The NBA is back, and there's no better place to get in on the action than FanDuel, the official sports betting partner of the NBA. Even if you missed the start of the game or want to ride the hot hand, FanDuel has live bets on everything from who will score next to fourth quarter comebacks. Plus, you can even combine your live bets into a same-game parlay for a shot at a bigger payout. It keeps every game exciting, especially when your team's making that late push. Right now, FanDuel is giving new customers $300 in bonus bets when your first $5 bet wins. So head to FanDuel.com to sign up and play your game with FanDuel, the official sports betting partner of the NBA. Dallas Braden never once turned his back on this fan base. Not once. Not during the collapse. Not during the teardown. Not during the reverse boycott. He stood with fans when ownership wouldn't stand within 100 yards, and he went to the tailgates. He boosted the message. He fought for the city in the booth when he could have taken the easy corporate road. But the moment he stayed employed, the unpardonable sin of feeding his family by continuing to work in baseball, suddenly he was the villain. the sellout, the traitor. Please leave me with that. That's not righteous outrage. That's what happens when disappointment mutates into a sport of its own. And here's the kicker. Braden tried to absorb the arrows with class. He told people he understood the anger. He explained that he sold out to baseball, meaning he gave everything he had to a game he loves and refuses to apologize for wanting to stay in it. There are 30 broadcasting jobs currently in Major League Baseball. 30! You don't throw one away to win an argument with a comment section. But that wasn't enough for the loudest critics. They didn't stop at his decisions. They reached back 15 years, grabbed the most vulnerable moment of his life, and tossed it around like a beach ball in the bleachers. They sneered at the memory, built on love and loss. They spit on something that wasn't just baseball, it was human. That's not fan behavior. That's cruelty wearing a foam finger. And let's be honest, the silence around this has been deafening. Where are the people who claim to represent the real fan base? Where are the folks who hold everyone else accountable? Where are the so-called leaders? When someone gets shoved by the mob, you don't get points for standing politely on the sidewalk. If you're not willing to say enough, then congratulations. You've just become scenery for the bullies. So here's the inconvenient truth. The problem isn't Dallas Braden. The problem is a culture that will devour its own before aiming at the real culprit. John Fisher didn't need to fracture this fan base. Some fans are doing that work for free. They are torching their own credibility while claiming the moral high ground. That's not how you keep a legacy alive. That's how you salt the earth around it. Dallas Braden isn't the enemy. He didn't abandon the A's. He stuck with them when plenty of people would have bailed. He wore the uniform. He made history in it. He carried Oakland's name onto the national stage in one of baseball's great underdog miracles. And he has spent years defending the fans, the city, and the story. He earned better than this. So if you are one of the fans tossing cheap shots about Braden, here's the mirror. Look into it. Ask yourself if this is a fan base you want the world to see. Ask if this is the culture you want stomped on the final chapter of A's history. Because right now, the loudest voices are making the whole room look bad. And if you're one of the fans, influencers, staying silent, here's your assignment. Speak up. Not for me, I could care less. And not for the brand, not for the A's, for basic decency. When the mob goes after your own, you don't let them write the story. Dallas Braden gave Oakland one of its proudest moments, a perfect game wrapped in the embrace of family, the kind of memory that should unite people, not divide them. If that's now fair game for mockery, then the problem isn't relocation. The problem isn't broadcast. The problem isn't Braden. The problem is us. And it's fixable, but only if the good fans get louder than the bad ones. The franchise's story is bruised enough. Don't let bitterness replace the heart that made this fan base special. Don't let cruelty rewrite a moment that deserved reverence. And for the love of baseball, stop mistaking bullying for passion. Dallas Braden stood up for the fans for years. This is the moment fans should stand up for him. If the perfect game taught us anything, it's that the A's and their fans can rise to the occasion. It's time to rise again. And yeah, for me, it has been troubling. The silence has been troubling for those who know better. For all the outrage among fans, very few prominent voices have spoken up to say enough. This is out of line. Where are the other Oakland legends, the community leaders, the fan group organizers to defend Dallas Braden's name and call out the abuse? with a few admirable exceptions. Most have stayed quiet, perhaps out of fear of wading into the toxic fray. But that silence is part of the problem. Failing to condemn this kind of behavior sends a signal that it's acceptable, or at least that it's no big deal. I heard one person say on social media, hey, it's social media, it's Twitter, whatever. Granted. But at the same time, there are some legitimate individuals, influencers, people who have a platform that are participating. It normalizes the pile-on and leaves Braden twisting in the wind, unsupported. One positive example came from a Athletics Nation writer who implored fellow fans, do not attack others for simply following the team to Las Vegas. In that fan's eyes, Braden, he's of the 19th perfect game in MLB history, has been an Oakland diehard and simply had to adapt to the circumstances. And it's all right to change with the times. In other words, hating on a lifelong Oakland guy for doing his job is just simply senseless. This was one refreshing call for reason, clearly prompted by the long day of hate Dallas endured. But voices like this have been far too rare. For the most part, the fan community stood by and watched as some of their own dragged Dallas through the mud. Every A's fan who didn't speak up, who let the bullies run rampant in the comments and threads, has inadvertently enabled the toxicity. By failing to police their own, they have created an environment where cruelty is tolerated. This is nothing new. This is nothing new for the last year and a half. It's a strain on Oakland's reputation, like it needs more of a strain. And what about Oakland A's organization itself? They opened up their social media accounts. People for over a year were complaining, hey, why don't they open up the comment section? Why would they? So it can be filled with profanities, 4-letter bombs. It's an embarrassment, man. It's just an absolute embarrassment and a mockery of what is going on. Ridiculous. I'm going to cover the keyboard warriors, their participation in this. If there's anything that needs to be done, I don't think there is. Up next. This episode is brought to you by Prize Picks. You and I make decisions every day, but on Prize Picks, being right can get you paid. Don't miss any of the excitement of this sports season, whether you are following the NBA, the NFL, or both. There's no better way to jump in on the action. If you haven't tried it yet, Prize Picks is the simplest way to play. Just pick more or less on at least 2 player stats, and if you get them right, you win. It takes less than 60 seconds to make your lineup, and you can play anywhere Prize Picks operates, including California, Texas, and Georgia. I've been using Prize Picks during both football Sundays and NBA tip-offs. It keeps every game exciting. I like picking my favorite players like Patrick Mahomes and Draymond Green to see how my predictions play out. There's a new stacks feature in a game. You can now pick more or less on Draymond's points, rebounds, and assists in the same lineup. Plus, if one of your players leaves early with an injury, the injury reboot saves my lineup from a loss. Download the Prize Picks app today and use code LOCKEDONMLB to get $50 in lineups after you play your first $5 lineup. That's code LOCKEDONMLB for $50 in lineups after your first $5 lineup. Prize Picks, it's good to be right. Guys, listen, I have called out attendance. I have called out the fans. I have called out ownership. I have called out just about everybody and criticized you name it with regard to what's going on. What's Dallas Braden done but support you? I deserve the criticism, every bit of it. Braden? Because he wants a job? And for those that stay silent, Please, leave me with that. It's time to say what Dallas Braden might be too classy to shout. Oakland fans, get it together, man. Figure it out. You have every right to be angry. It's a travesty. I get the anger. But turning that anger into a mean-spirited circus of personal attacks is not justified. It's destructive, embarrassing, and beneath the proud history. The anger aimed at Braden isn't helping Oakland or stick it to ownership. All it does is alienate good people who actually love the team and the city. In the end, what did Dallas Braden do? He gave his heart, elbow for Oakland on the mound. He brought you one of the greatest moments in franchise history and has consistently repped Oakland with pride. He also chose to have baseball as an occupation where he earns a living. And can you truly blame him for that? As one columnist noted, Braden remaining with the A's broadcast might have been awkward, but had he openly blasted the move, it likely would have cost him his job. And there are not many jobs like that to go around. Is it truly selling out to avoid career suicide, or is it simply reality? Braden shouldn't have to martyr himself to prove his loyalty. His entire life story already proves that. Oakland fans supposedly prided themselves on being passionate, savvy, and loyal through the thick and thin. Now is the moment to show those values. It's just absolutely ridiculous. Absolutely ridiculous. If Oakland's own fans are showing such disrespect to their heroes, it's a serious question A's fans need to ask themselves as they look in a mirror. How can we condemn an owner's disrespect towards Oakland if the fans themselves are showing such disrespect to one of the best? To one of the best to represent this organization. Finally, to those who have sat on the sidelines, hey, speak up. Say something. The next time you see someone spewing garbage about Braden or any other undeserving target, call it out. Make it clear that this is not okay. Policing your own community is part of being a responsible fan. Otherwise, you're just cheering from the cheap seats while the character of your fan base erodes. I don't know. In the end, guys, this isn't about an ex-pitcher. This isn't about an ex-pitcher's feelings being hurt. It's about what kind of legacy you as fans want to leave the A's era in Oakland. Do you want it defined by bitterness, profanity, and pettiness? I think you do. I don't think it's going to end. For me, I've said it before. I'll say it again. This was far less of a tragedy and more of an overdue breakup. For 30 years, the A's were third fiddle. For 30 years, they won. And you don't want to hear it. You didn't show up. You didn't show. The numbers say that. 2014, we had the best record in all of baseball at the break. Where were you? One of the lowest attendances. 2018, making a playoff push. Matt Chapman called out the fans. What'd you say? Give me a break. Now you're going to come back and say, oh, well, hey, the Coliseum was falling apart and we didn't reinvest in players and we didn't re-sign anybody. So why are you so damn upset that they're leaving? You were never going to show because it was going to be the same thing. You were not going to show. And as long as you did not show, revenue was not going to be good at the gate. We were not going to sign the free agents. It would have been over and over and over again. Nothing would have changed. It would have been 3 years, 4 years good, 3 years rebuilding. It would have been the same cycle because you would not show. So everything would have stayed the same. Why are you so upset that they're leaving? The only thing that would have made you happy is if Fisher sold. You might have shown. Fisher sold, new stadium. You want me to tell you what really happened? In 2001, across the bay, when Pac-Bell Park was built, you guys bailed on the A's. You went over there. That's what happened. Give me a break. Enough. Enough with the BS. Enough with the BS. Oakland's story is already ending in tragedy, and you are continuing to add disgrace to the mix. Stop with the insults. Fix the culture. And remember who the real enemy is. Dallas Braden hasn't abandoned Oakland. He simply refused to abandon baseball or his dignity. Can we say the name about those who threw him under the bus? It's time for a reality check, man. The fight to keep Oakland baseball soul alive won't be won by abusing its icons. Point the finger in the right direction. Point it downtown to government. And like I said, Braden, for his part, has handled the abuse with remarkable grace. Even after being unfairly vilified, he hasn't resorted to firing back in any kind of way towards the fan base. Instead, he consistently tried to redirect the anger upward. It's just, for me, like I said, it's more of an overdue breakup. What's up, Chuck? I love that you always speak the truth. I appreciate it, man. Like I said, I have been critical of Braden throughout the season, just about everybody. But I don't know what fan isn't critical of a team during the season and so forth. It's when you see the insults, you kind of deal with it for a certain amount of time. You look at it and say, hey, whatever. It is social media. What caught me was like, it started being directed to Braden. And like I said, Braden has been nothing but supportive. And I get it's not all Oakland fans. It's not. It's a small select group. But at the same time, the silence is deafening. Those who don't speak up are part of the problem. And there's some legit groups out there, some legit leaders that can say something. They won't. They won't. They're scared. Oh, we don't want to hurt their feelings, and they won't be friends with us anymore. Cowards. Simply cowards. And I got nothing but, I don't have anything positive to say about that. You'd rather have the crowd than tell the truth and call them out. It doesn't get any more cowardice than that. So that's my rant for the day. It's too bad. It's too bad. Is what it is. And I don't see anything really being changed in the near future with regard to it. They're going to continue to be loud. And we're not talking about bots. We're not talking about social media. We're talking about people with true platforms. And it's unfortunate. Take care, guys. I will have a special episode tomorrow since I missed Monday, so I'll be back tomorrow morning early. Take it easy. Have a good one. Take care. Thank you for making Locked On A's your first listen every day. For your second listen, find the Locked On MLB podcast, where there is no offseason. Sully keeps you up to date on contract negotiations, rumors, and everything you need to be the most informed Major League Baseball fan. Find Locked On MLB on YouTube or wherever you listen to your podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.